welcome to World Today. I'm your host Sharmeen Ali. In recent days, after the revocation of Article 370 by the Indian government and of Article 35A about the special status of Indian occupied Kashmir, a lot of reactions have come about, and recently the army has warned that it will respond befittingly if there's any kind of act of aggression from the Indian side. There'll be a stronger response to any misadventure by India than the one in February, the DGISPR has said. And in response to a tweet by Director General Asif Ghafoor, he responded to a tweet by Corps Commander Lieutenant General Kanwaljit Singh Dhillon in occupied Kashmir. He said that Pakistan Army and Pakistan, he said that an attempt to carve out casus belli for a misadventure to divert world attention from the precarious situation and atrocities in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. This is what he labeled that Corps Commander's wordings as, and the Corps Commander Kanwaljit Singh Dhillon, General Kanwaljit Singh Dhillon had said that Pakistan Army and Pakistan have always been involved in disrupting the peace in Kashmir Valley, and he's saying that he would like to believe they are good enough to do it. And recently there's been statements which have come up in which they are openly threatening about certain incidents in the valley. Notwithstanding, we will take care of all of them. Let anyone come and try and disrupt the peace in the valley, we will have him eliminated. Of course, Pakistan Army gave a befitting response to that and said that we will respond in an appropriate manner. Naturally, Pakistan's army and Pakistan's government has retained its stance of peace and has ruled out any kind of military action in Indian occupied Kashmir. However, they have clearly said that they will not tolerate any threats or any kind of misadventure in Pakistan. Also, at the moment, on the 5th day of curfew in Indian occupied Kashmir, people are still locked in their houses. There's a complete lockdown. There is no internet connection. Communications are severed. Shops are closed. People are living under a very, very tough environment, and schools are closed. Life has come to a complete standstill. We're going to be speaking about all of this today on our program. Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has said that the Kartarpur corridor will resume for the birth anniversary of Baba Guru Nanak, and it's still due to open at the same time as before, provided that there's still cooperation from the Indian side. At the end of our program, we'll also do a brief stock market review. So there are a lot of things to discuss on our program today. We have with us today in the studios Advocate Pervez Ahmed from All Parties Hurriyat Conference. He's a representative, and also Mrs. Shameen Shaw, who's also representative of All Parties Hurriyat Conference. Thank you so much, both of you, for being with us today. We're very fortunate to actually have people from the freedom movement in Kashmir and their representatives with us, so that you can tell us exactly the situation on the ground, because you have your own friends and family there, and also you can tell us what's been happening and how the people there are affected firsthand. But first, let's begin with what General Asif Ghafoor has said, what the army has stated, that they will give a befitting response, and that any aggression from India will be met with a response much stronger than what they saw in February. Naturally, sir, I'll start with you, Advocate Pervez Ahmed. What do you think about this, the aggression that we're seeing from the Indian side? Do you think, according to what Prime Minister Imran Khan said, that they see Pakistan's stance of peace as a weakness? Because this is a stance which is responsible. It's a responsible way to carry forward such a situation. Naturally, nobody wants a war, and it would be an irresponsible thing for anybody in Pakistan or India to say that there should be a war. So what would you say about that, this aggression that you're seeing from the Indian military side?
Thank you very much. Basically, we have to understand the psychology of the India and Indian government. One thing is, whenever there is any situation, development in the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, when they are expecting that the resistance movement is getting the momentum and they have to face the international pressures, definitely they make the escalations on the borders. And when they make the escalations, they expect international intervention, and once the international intervention will come, definitely the situation in Jammu and Kashmir, they can divert the attention from that. You see, if we see for the last 10 days, we have been monitoring the situation in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and we have seen there was they were beefing up the army. They have sending more and more troops to Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And people of Jammu and Kashmir were collecting petrol, rations, medicines, and they were expecting that something wrong is going to happen in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, because we have been monitoring India for the last 6 years since the BJP government came into the power, because they had in their manifesto they had already made it clear that they are going to abrogate Article 370 and Article 35A. And on 5th, when this announcement was made by the Amit Shah in the parliament and in the legislative assembly, the people of Jammu and Kashmir came on the street despite the curfew, despite the restrictions there. And India came to know that the situation is going to be out of their control, and they were not expecting there will be any response from the Pakistan, because they were taking into consideration the economic situation of the Pakistan and taking the undue advantage of the situation. So they had built up their army and they have sent more and more troops to the borders, and they were going for any adventure. So Pakistan has rightly responded properly. The Prime Minister has, in his speech to the joint session of the Parliament, he has openly said we are not in favor of the war. We have made couple of offers to the government of India for the peaceful resolution. Even there is if we go away from the United Nations resolution, there is an agreement, that is Shimla agreement, although the people of Jammu and Kashmir are not the party and we do not believe on that agreement. But between India and Pakistan, there is an agreement, that is Shimla agreement, that they should resolve all outstanding issues, including Jammu and Kashmir, through the dialogue.
Right.
They have so they have violated that agreement and other the international guarantees, and they just passed an ordinance, and by virtue of that they wanted to annex the state of Jammu and Kashmir, which is disputed territory.
Right, we're going to continue with this topic as well, but meanwhile I just wanted to add that the Sheikh Rashid Ahmad, who's the Minister of Railways, announced that Samjhota Express and the Thar Express services are going to be shut down, and the cabinet has endorsed this decision. Also, parliamentary diplomacy has been stepped up by the government of Pakistan, and the Turkish and Malaysian speakers have had telephonic conversations with the Speaker of the House, Asad Kaisar, to show their solidarity with Pakistan in this issue with Kashmir, the new developments over there, the revocation of Article 370. The entire Muslim world has been affected and has been very, very shaken up by these steps by the Indian government to make this decision, take this decision unilaterally. So let's continue with our guests. So ma'am, we were talking about the aggression that we're seeing from the Indian side and the statements that the Indian army is making, and at the same time Pakistan's army has revoked these statements and has also said that they're going to give a befitting response if there's any kind of aggression or threat from the Indian side, and we've seen that we've been able to do that after the Pulwama attacks in February. So let's move forward about now the Indian army. The aggression that's been taking place from that side has been building up over time as well, and recently we saw the use of carpet bombing being used by the Indian army along the line of control. Civilians have been targeted, and there have been a huge loss of lives of civilians as well as military personnel who have become shaheed along the line of controls. And there has been destruction of property and damage to houses and shops, and which is just towards Indian innocent civilians along the LOC. So ma'am, what would you like to say about that?
Thank you very much. Just I will try to add one thing, that before we will discuss this, what is going on LOC, it was not now, it is going on every time.
Exactly.
Whenever India needs to have this type of adventurism, they try to start firing on the LOC. They tried to fire on the schools, innocent children. And the cluster bomb, if you will see, the cluster bomb is the first time used by Indian forces on LOC. And it is very important for Pakistan to take this matter to the Vienna, because the Vienna Convention will not allow anybody to have such type of bombing on the LOC, on the innocent population. If we will go back to the history, we will see that there are more than 50,000 small and big communal rights in India, and the management and all was that the people, the Muslim population in Indian states, wherever they were in the Muslim belt, they tried to destroy their economy. If you will see the Muradabad, it was a big industry, steel industry, and they tried 100 times to have the communal rights, and then they dislocated the Muslim population, and they were diverted, and they then take refuge in different parts of India and outside the India.
Right.
The economic power of Muslims was never seen with the good eyes or with the good intentions with the Bharatiya Janata Party every time. And this is the intention. They want this geographical change, the demographic change in Kashmir, because it is a Muslim belt. They want to change the demography as well as to destroy the economy of the people.
Right.
Because when you will see these, in these 30 years, you have never seen, you have never listened about that there was some time of shortage of food in Kashmir, because we have a very high potential agricultural land, we have our own tourism, we have our different fruit industries, carpets, we have everything. We have handmade industries there. Therefore, this was never in these 30 years we have such type of problems inside the Kashmir. Now, this demographic change plus to destroy the economy of the Kashmiris is the intention of the Indian government, especially of this racist government, BJP government.
Right, exactly.
Therefore, if you will see that with these two intentions, they just want to kill the people, the population, and allow those people who are already married, the girls who married outside in Punjab, because we have different communities there, Sikhs there, Hindus there, who are married to different populations outside. The Punjabi Sikhs, they married to the Punjabi men in the Punjab. Then when this agreement, after this 35A, when they have abolished this article, now it will help them to purchase the land and they will be the citizens of Kashmir. Therefore, this is the very threatening point for us, for everybody, for Pakistan, for the international community to come forward and help the people of Jammu and Kashmir not to have the resolution to be passed, the resolutions to be implemented, but to stop India to
try and change the demography of the region. We also have with us now joining us Sharmeen Ali Bhatani, who is a professor of international relations. Thank you for joining us, Bhatani sahab. I wanted to ask you this. Now, DGISP has also tweeted that Indian occupied Kashmir has a media blackout, whereas Azad Kashmir, media is free to go over there, and UN military observers group in India and Pakistan is also free to operate over there and see what's happening. So this is a huge difference between the two sides, that Indian occupied Kashmir doesn't even allow UN MOGIB troops to go inside and see what's happening, and there's a media blackout. So doesn't the world and the international media understand through these steps itself, what have the Indians got to hide that they're not allowing observer groups in there? What are they hiding?
Actually, it's a very sorry state of affairs that the international media and the international community is not paying the attention as the International Human Rights Charter is concerned, as far as the global civilizational norms are concerned. They are not paying that kind of attention because of their vested interests. Now, it's very clear, as you also said, that what are they hiding? They are hiding the massacre that they are planning. They are hiding the demographic change, as my fellow colleague said. They are hiding all the state atrocities. Look at the videos that we are getting somehow, the amount of troops deployment that has been done. I mean, there is, for every single Kashmiri, there is a single soldier as well. All the streets are, filled by Indian soldiers. So definitely they are doing something. And look at the statements that are coming out from the very responsible politicians of India. They are making misogynist statements. So it means that they are taking they are taking Kashmir really like something which is a property, and that they can occupy in one way or the other.
And they're viewing it as an object, the land and the people. They're saying we can now marry Kashmiri women, and they're seeing them as objects, not as people, and not looking at how do they feel about this? Do they want you to be here? Do they want to interact with you in that manner that you're saying and getting married? It's absolutely absurd.
Yeah, I mean, it's blatant violation of all the set patterns, norms that have been achieved by global community over the last many centuries. I mean, they're not taking care of what Human Rights Charter of United Nations means. All the traditions that have been established and they have adopted by European Union and European countries and all the civilized world. I mean, everything is put to back burner, and they are just, as you said, that treating Kashmir as an object, and they want to do what they desire. and the populist Hindutva government that has came into being very recently, they have very blatantly, destroyed the whole generation of whatever intellectual, social, political, literature has been produced about the right of self-determination, about what do we mean by it's the people's will all the time. So, and they are trying to, create a parallel stance, a parallel belief that it is not the people who, Kashmir is not to belong to Kashmiris, it belongs to Indian government only, and they can instrumentally use it. That's why they have never given it a thought about even the settlement of Kashmir on a greater scale. I mean, there is AJK, Gilgit-Baltistan, there is a whole, structure of, there have been Agra talks, there have been arguments about, there are people who want a greater role of Kashmiris in the talks, there are people who debate about the bilateral aspect of this dispute. So there has been a huge debate for 7 decades. There is a Kashmiri freedom struggle as well, which is going on, and they have paid a big price just to prove that it is an indigenous struggle. Because India initially would, do a propaganda that it is Pakistan who is fueling something. But over the period of time, particularly in the last 2-3 years, after in post-Burhan Wani scenario, Kashmiris have proved that it is the indigenous struggle.
Absolutely.
It is nobody from outside is dealing with it. So the world should treat it as that. And UN has come up with these recent 2 reports, which very rightly said that there are human rights abuses. So I think it's a question mark for the international community as well, for these stalwarts of democracy and civilization, that what's going on in 21st century with Kashmir. I mean, this is an unthinkable scenario. I mean, for a student like me of political science or politics, it's unthinkable that what's going on. The scenario is some sort of, a very, it resort to dark ages. Some sort of a dark ages scenario is we are facing, because it was Amit Shah and it was Modi that they planned something without considering the international commitments, without considering even
their own parliament.
Even Jawaharlal Nehru, I mean, the statement, his statement is very popular about Kashmir, that Kashmir belongs to Kashmiris and they are the ones to decide.
Yes.
So, and Pakistan could have also taken these kind of, as an independent state, could have taken these kind of measures long before. But Pakistan has always tried to, keep that sanctity alive somehow. But
exactly.
we have a setup of Azad Jammu and Kashmir. There must be some political or academic differences. But largely, Pakistan has never tried to do something like that, to annex some sort of an area,
Absolutely.
We have tried to, preserve that sanctity.
Yes.
So they didn't give, and I think demographic shift is a small thing. Indians are planning something really out of the box in Kashmir.
It's unbelievable what's happening over there, and they think that they'll get away with it with impunity. But we'll see in the days ahead. We'll be speaking about what might be happening next. Now, DGISPR also said that thousands of Indian troops have failed to suppress the Kashmir freedom struggle, and the current surge won't work either. So, Advocate Pervez Ahmed Sahab, I wanted to ask you this, that how long will the Indian government continue to deny that this is an indigenous struggle? Because Professor Salman also mentioned about Burhan Wani. This was all indigenous, these movements going on in Kashmir. These are young people who've grown up in Kashmir. There are 3 generations now who have experienced this occupation, and the human rights violations. Even now, the use of pellet guns is being observed in Indian occupied Kashmir. How long will the Indian government get away with blaming Pakistan for making this all happen? They're in denial, because it just carries it builds up steam on its own, and it's bound to do more so going forward. And they have to acknowledge what's going on in their own occupied territories rather than assign blame to the neighbors. So, would you like to comment on that?
Let you refer me to one of the statements of the Bipin Rawat. Bipin Rawat is the chief of the Army Staff of India. Few months back, he issued a statement that total strength of the freedom fighters in occupied Jammu and Kashmir is less than 250. You see, this is his statement, he's on the record. At the same time, there is the total strength of the Indian Army is 800,000. You can yourself make a comparison that there is no comparison between, there is no parity. On one hand, there are less than 250 freedom fighters as per your statement, and on the other hand, you have 800,000 Indian army. No comparison.
Yes.
I can say the people of Jammu and Kashmir are not fighting a war against the Indian occupation, because 250 people cannot fight 800,000.
It's very
There is no
disproportionate,
comparison.
exactly.
People of Jammu and
Numbers
Kashmir are resisting. Basically, it is a resistance movement. People of Jammu and Kashmir are resisting against the occupation, against the tools of the occupation.
Yes.
You see, what is happening? We are giving a call is coming from from all parties Hurriyat conference for a strike. They are knowing the fact that people will come on the streets and they just impose the curfew. When the people come on the streets, they shower the bullets and these pellet cartridges. You see, once you choke the freedom of speech and expression to the people, what is the option left to the young boys? They have to throw the stones.
Yeah.
But the Indian corporate media, unfortunately, they project these young boys with the tiny stones in their hands as a terrorists and misguiding the whole international community. But they do not discuss that there are more than 800,000 troops in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir.
Yeah.
Second, India has failed for the last 7 decades to suppress this freedom movement by either way, by using the force, by giving the offer of economic upliftment, by offering the jobs, because Kashmiris have rejected all these things and they are just standing that they should be given the right to self-determination, which has been guaranteed to them by United Nations resolutions, by the Indian Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister, Mr. Nehru, and the same has been reiterated by, as my colleague was just mentioning, the report of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. In this report, there are 2 things. There are one thing which is very clear, that both India and Pakistan should respect the people's right to self-determination.
Absolutely.
In the Jammu. Now the question arises, how you will respect it? The respect to the people's right to self-determination is that you will not change the demography. The respect is you will give them the space, you will give them the right. But India is knowing and they see the writing on the wall that people of Jammu and Kashmir are not with them. So they are just making everything possible to annex the state with the with India, so that this dispute may come to an end. But it does not come. It is locally they have made this arrangement, but it did not affect the international the law. You see, when you are resolutions, how you can make that it is now a local issue, it is a domestic issue. You have just annexed a state and you can avoid all international commitments you have made. Just one thing, which I would like to put on the record. The state of Jammu and Kashmir was a princely state. It was not the British India. It was not at that time with the British India. When this subcontinent was divided, it was almost an independent state. We have our own constitution, we have our own flag. So the Maharaja, for the sake of arguments, he entered into an agreement which is called accession, the accord, although it was engineered. But in that agreement, he has also seek the guarantees from the India that they will not change the demography. If India today violates that agreement, those agreement between 2 states, if one of the state violates it, the parties come to the original position. So as per my opinion, the parties have come to the original position. If you have violated the instrument of accession, the conditions which the Maharaja mentioned at that time, so you are on the back to the position.
So the instrument of accession to India is no longer valid.
No longer valid
in
as
your
well.
opinion, right? So, Ms. Sharmeen Chaul, I wanted to now ask you, since you're Kashmiris, both of you, and you have relatives and family there, can you please apprise us about what's happening there right now to the people you know? There's the curfew. Are you even able to get in touch with them? Are they able to get the basic necessities that they need?
No, we have no contact with them since it was evening, 4th and 5th night, August 4th at, I think it was 5 a.m. I just was contacting with my family, and they abruptly stopped, and then it was all over that there was no internet connection, there is no landline connection, nothing is coming out from what is going on there. And now there was only one report that I gathered from the students who are coming out from Kashmir to the different colleges and universities outside Pakistan, India, outside India also, and inside. They said that there are 2 things. The pellet victims are more than in hundreds. The Sobra Institute is full. There is no capacity in the hospitals, and there is not a single person who you can see on the roads. Absolutely blackout, no internet, no media. Even if you will watch the NDTV, and the reporter is a Kashmiri, Nazir Masoodi, he said that I want to talk to the people. It is an Indian television. That I want to talk to the people. What is the situation inside your home? Have you the medicines, the milk or the food for the children? That there is not a single person, because they are not allowing people to come out. They know if they will come out, they will gather these informations, because the through satellite, they have stopped these dishes and the cable system. But one thing is there that I want to share with you, that this, I would say this is a Gundagardi of the Bharatiya Janata Party. It was not accepted by the Ladakh, by the people of the Ladakh. They have rejected this union territory, but set up. And in Jammu also, the Dogras, they have rejected, and they have filed I think the petition in the High Court, and High Court has also rejected this petition, that India is not allowed to change this, they cannot stop the people or they will not allow the people to have the land or to come to be the citizen of the Kashmir. Now there is one question which is very important, that the manifesto of BJP was that it was, I have the map where the papers where it was written that if you want the land in Kashmir, give vote to the BJP. Kashmir mein zameen kharido और भारतीय जनता पार्टी को वोट दे दो.
So this is
और
part
they
of the
proved
election
it, and they
manifesto.
proved it.
One thing that's very important right now, which I also want to ask all the guests here right now, I'll start with Professor Salman Bhatani, that okay, the curfew is in place right now, and it's the 5th day now. What is going to happen next? Because how long will they impose a curfew? Eid is around the corner, and once the curfew is lifted, naturally people are going to come out of their homes, and Prime Minister Imran Khan, everybody has mentioned that is when the real unrest is likely to happen. What are we going to expect then? Are things going to get really violent and unstable in that region? Naturally, we're concerned for the Kashmiri people. So, sir, would you like to
I think definitely there would be a lot of unrest, and there would be a lot of brutal force used against the innocent Kashmiris. And definitely there is youth, and youth have a specific thinking. They're full of energy, and now they are frustrated because see, if somebody is not able to talk to his or her family, if somebody is looking, is not finding food and supplies for his or her children, so the lava is cooking up, and definitely they cannot extend the curfew for an indefinite period. If they I think for after 4 or 5 days, people will start resisting and coming out, because how
long can you keep them locked
yes,
up in
you
their
cannot keep them
homes, like
home
in
for a
cage?
longer time.
Exactly.
People have health concerns, people have food concerns. There are people who are daily wagers. I mean, so there are, you cannot put civilian population like this under this kind of a siege. And not only common civilian population, all the leadership of Kashmiris, and to our surprise, the pro-Kashmiri, pro-resistance leadership is understandable that you put them in house arrest. They've also, all the pro-Indian leadership, that they are also put
arrested,
in the
exactly.
house arrest. So the situation is cooking up, it is boiling, and definitely that's what worries me most, because when the people will come out, then India will use tactics to somehow create a camouflage, somehow, maybe, God forbid, I think, I'm a student of peace, I'm not up for war, but to camouflage that resistance, Kashmiri resistance, when they'll blow up, they will do something, maybe something on border, maybe initiate a conflict with Pakistan, or false flag operation, or something like that, or maybe a staged event inside Kashmir, or creating another war hysteria. So I think situation is boiling up, but at the end of the day, the most unfortunate situation is for innocent people of Kashmir,
yes,
because
absolutely.
they are suffering. The ultimate sufferers are they. I mean, Pakistan has to do what it will do.
Yeah.
Pakistan will defends its borders. Pakistan will, thwart the attack and everything. Whatever will be compelled over Pakistan, Pakistan will do it. India is doing what it is doing, which is unlawful, unjustified and everything. But the whole equation boils down to a normal, ordinary Kashmiri who is already suppressed, who is already undergoing, inhuman circumstances.
Right.
And eventually, in the near future, God forbid, I think situation will be very critical.
Yes, we can only as Pakistanis give moral, political and
Yeah.
diplomatic support. Advocate Pervez Ahmed, that yesterday Prime Minister Modi's speech, it sounded absolutely ridiculous that he was congratulating the people of Kashmir for their new status, when you're congratulating people who you've literally got under siege and literally like you've caged them up, and then you're congratulating them that I've improved your life for you. He sounds like somebody who's completely incoherent and does not have a realistic view of reality of what's going on over there. Because what would you say about that? Because now, just like Salman Ali Sahib has just said, that when the curfew lifts, and maybe even before that, people will start to come out. And how will these troops in Indian occupied Kashmir contain those people? They haven't been able to do so far.
You see, we have the experience when Burhan Muzaffarwani was martyred. They kept Kashmir under curfew for the 6 months, for 6 months. And with this intention that they will break the will of the people. But you see, once they lifted the curfew, the people came on the streets, and we have more than 1,000 casualties. And we have won more than 1,500 those pallet victims who lost their eyesight. So India knows it very well, that once they lifted the curfew, the people will come. And you see, as Ms. Shawl has said, that there have been, I have much more information than Ms. Shawl, because I have contacted different friends in Delhi and other areas. People have come out on the streets and they have used excessive force. We have the information.
They've already done that.
And there have been casualties. And especially,
used pellet guns again.
Yeah, especially in the South Kashmir, we have the reporting of killings. Dozens of people have been killed, although we don't know the exact number, but they have used excessive force. So far you are talking of the Narendra Modi's congratulating the people of Jammu and Kashmir. I will tell you, in India there are 7 union territories. 2 union territories, that is Delhi and Pondicherry. They have their legislative assemblies.
Okay.
So in the same way, they have made Kashmir a union territory with legislative assembly.
Okay.
I have just studied, and I was just, for the last 2 days, I was just going through that how much authority that in a union territory, how much powers this legislative assembly has. They have, the powers are only to deal with the sick matters. Even they can look after the water, they have to just collect the garbage, and this is not the authority which can have the powers, administrative power. They are going to appoint a lieutenant governor. He will be all powerful, and he will be given all administrative control in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And once this officer is concerned, you can say lieutenant general, now the first we have to see what will be their move. We have to take the precautions, and what Pakistan, their first move will be that 2 years back, there was rather 3 years back, there was a law passed by the Indian Parliament that is called SARFAESI Act. In the SARFAESI Act, the banks were asked to liquidate the loans which the people have received. You have seen for the last 30 years, the state of Jammu and Kashmir is in turmoil. People were economically affected. They have taken the loans from the banks. And now what they will ask the banks to sell the property which is the mortgage with the banks from those people who have taken the loans. So the people of Jammu and Kashmir have almost pledged half of the Jammu and Kashmir with the banks because they don't have anything to eat. They'll just, when they will go for the liquidation and they will sell these properties, definitely the Hindu will come here and will buy the property because he will be in a better position and he will make a better offer. Second, the next will be the right to property is no more a right. In the Indian constitution or in the constitution of Pakistan, the government has the authority to acquire the property for any purpose. It can be acquired for the industry, for any government office, for any university. They will acquire the properties. The governor, lieutenant governor will acquire the property, and they will establish industrial zones which they were intending in past, which were resisted by the people. So they will acquire the properties and they will establish industrial zones.
And
they are-
it's going to change the
yeah,
whole
in their industrial zones, the
scenario
employees
there.
will come from India,
Yeah.
and they will be doing the jobs, and they will buy the property.
Yeah.
And one more thing is that the Sainiks, the ex-Sainiks, those
Army
ex-army men, they were intending to build the colonies for them. They are going to build the colonies in the coming years if they are not stopped. And especially the Sharnarthis, those who have migrated in 1971 from Bangladesh to India, they are going to settle
So
there.
they're trying to
so
basically,
that they will
they're
change
trying to force-
complete
right.
demography of the. So it is the question of life and death to the people of Jammu and
Yeah,
Kashmir.
because they're
So
trying to
they have
force
to
the
resist.
people in
There is-
Kashmir to have an
There
exodus.
is no
and leave.
option left to the people
Right.
of Jammu and Kashmir. Otherwise, through 2 or 3, 4, 5 years, there will be no difference between UP and
So,
Kashmir.
okay.
So they will resist
They
it,
will
and there is no other
Yeah.
way other than resistance.
Right, they will protest and then they will have a
they
reaction
will
from
face
the
the
army,
atrocity.
and this is going to lead to,
These are the
unfortunately,
intent designs are
violent-
to kill the
exactly.
people, have a genocide.
So let's talk about the way forward now. The UN chief has condemned this action by India, and also China has condemned it recently. Just today, they had their spokesperson was saying that this unilateral decision shouldn't be made. And the US has talked about their reservations. OIC, Turkey, Malaysia, as we've seen. The international media has also spoken about this topic a lot. The New York Times had an editorial about that from the editorial staff. It wasn't just one opinion that they thought this was very wrong what the Indians did. Also, CNN had an interview
Sky
yesterday
News,
with
Sky News.
Dr.
BBC
Maliha Lodi,
every day.
and at the same time, Christiana Manpour was saying she couldn't reach anybody from India to speak. They don't want to speak. They don't want to let anybody see anything. So, sir, I'm going to ask you, Salman Ali Saab, how can we now keep this heat going on, that the pressure on India, is this in any way reversible? Can the Supreme Court make any kind of decision in India that can reverse this? Or is this one of those things that India just gets away with and the status will remain as is? And ma'am, both of you, I would just like to ask, what's the way forward in this?
I think Pakistan need to adopt an aggressive stance, an aggressive strategy as far as keeping this issue alive, because Pakistan is in a right positions. Obviously, we have been talking about that Kashmiris are not even allowed to talk or come to the road. So Pakistan has a greater role and greater duty. 1, 2. The international community cannot give this safe passage to India at this time, because this is something really important. As advocates have said, that we have no other way. The only way is resistance. We cannot let this thing happen, because we only had one thing, that was Kashmir, and if that is being snatched from us, then we are left with nothing. 3, the most important aspect is that the international community should understand that we just had a small mini war in this year in February. So, and Pakistan was really ready to go for it. We have fought
And
3
there's
wars.
a
It's a
nuclear
nuclear
flashpoint,
flashpoint.
which everybody
So they should be alarmed. US, China, Russia particularly, they should be alarmed. And then 5th, the most important responsibility lies on the shoulders of Muslim Ummah as well. Because this time Muslim Ummah cannot, act the way they do otherwise. This is something really grave.
can't
This is
just
something
turn a
really
blind eye.
important. I think, and then in South Asia particularly, we also need to bring in all those powers all those countries who have got great stakes in South Asia, with South Asian economy, with South Asian politics. We have Afghan peace process around the corner. So there are a lot of important events going on in the sidelines. So this very pivotal issue cannot be left like that. And but I think it is very difficult to expect something going on inside India, because the resistance that we are looking at in India it's very meager. There are very few voices who are talking about this mistreatment and this illegal act. Congress is not in that position. The Indian civil society has always been oppressed. So you see, there are some sane voices which are coming out, but I don't expect anything out of the box from Indian High Court, because BJP is kind of a party, and Modi and Amit Shah are kind of leaders who are very egoistic in that sense. Now, taking a step back is a political death for them. That's how they have considered it. I was witnessing the debates that were going on in Indian Parliament. So they have created a position of, they are into a closed-ended street. It would be international pressure that would, bring up some sort of middle way, where they could they could give some surety to indigenous Kashmiris, and pull back this legal instrument in some other way. Because obviously, to be realistic, as ma'am also said that it was their election slogan, they have done it. Now, going back from that election slogan in Indian part of politics, it is very rhetoric based. So they are also in a closed alley.
Yes,
but they are also waiting for wait and see policies going on, that what's happened. Now I think it is the right time to raise more and more awareness, put more and more pressure, and international pressure.
International pressure
Because
is
it is
very
not
important.
in the responsibility of the people of Jammu and Kashmir now, because we are fighting since 1990. Now it is the responsibility of the international community, it is the responsibility of United Nations, it is USA who has the responsibility to come forward and save the people, the lives of the people. At this time, it is not the land is important; it is the lives of the people of Kashmir.
Yes.
Because
And in this- yes.
the fact is that India has the designs, as they said, the Rajnath. He said that this I will give you the solution, and I will solve the Kashmir problem. Will be the genocide. We don't know what is happening in Kashmir now. The actual position nobody knows. We are getting this information from Delhi, because directly we are not contacted with them, with my family. Parvez Sahib is not contacted with the family. What is happening there? What is happening with the people? Our more than 20,000 people are in different jails of political prisoners in India. Well, last we heard that they have shifted 10,000 people from Kashmir to different parts of India. We are threatened that they will train them. For example, they will use them, and then they will they will take them to the Kashmir, and they will do the Shupayan Act, and then they will say that it is the Pakistan.
So basically,
therefore, we
yes.
have so many. We have reservations. Therefore, it is the responsibility of the international community. It is the responsibility of the UN Security Council to take this matter and resolve this forever. Because if they will not do this,
a permanent solution
it will
is
be a
definitely
danger
needed,
for
yes.
this region.
Yes, and definitely the media needs to stay engaged with this topic. We can't stop talking about it, because then it dies out like it has in the
Number
past.
two, I will just want to add that it is the high time for Pakistan also to invite this fact-find mission to go to India and to come to Azad Kashmir also.
Okay.
Well, there are thousands and hundreds of people are on the roads and giving for the rescue of their brothers and sisters who are in Kashmir. Come and see what is happening there and here. This is the high time.
The positive news is that the Kartarpur corridor is still going to continue, and that's going to be opening still on target for the birth anniversary of Baba Guru Nanak. So I think those channels of peace are still open, and people-to-people contact, as the foreign minister had said, that's also going to remain open. I think that is important to continue doing that as well, because you can't just completely close yourself off to dialogue.
You see, there are if we say people are talking, there are 3 parties to the dispute, but I have my own perception, there are 4 parties to the dispute. One is India, Pakistan, people of Jammu and Kashmir, and international community. You see, 3 parties are ready for the resolution, that is people of Jammu and Kashmir, international community, and Pakistan. It is only India which is not ready. Basically, India does not have the political will to resolve the issue, because channels of communication should not be completely.
They shouldn't. And
struck.
unfortunately,
That
that's
should
all the
be.
time we
But
have for today's program. So I'm sorry to cut
Thank
you
you.
off. And it was a very interesting and engaging discussion with you, Salman Ali, Advocate Parvez Ahmed, Salman Ali Bhatani Saab, and Ms. Sharmeen. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us on today's program. Viewers, that's all for today's show. Thank you for joining us on World Today. We'll see you next time. And that's bye-bye for now from me, Sharmeen Ali, and our team from World Today.